Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
It sure is, and I enjoyed a violent film that was also satirical called Free Fire recently.
There's something on your screen here. I don't know if you want that there.
Oh, good, thanks.
There you go.
Okay.
Start over.
Yeah. Well, let's go for the beginning, because that would have been on there anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Not
It's
any
still on there.
would see.
It's on there again.
Oh, okay. That's the Wi-Fi.
It's just, it pops up again. I don't know why. Maybe just select one. What is the radius?
No.
I'm going to do it again.
I know. You think anybody can see it?
I know. I knew you would want it to be off.
All right. Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
Yeah, boy. And recently I enjoyed a satirically violent film called Free Fire.
Oh, yeah. Ben Wheatley.
Yeah. And as we were discussing it, we were kind of reminiscing about masters of violence.
Yeah. Violence is...
We picked out three. We picked out Sam Peckinpah, Martin Scorsese,
yeah,
and Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Who's the most violent?
Oh, who's the most violent? Clearly, Tarantino is the most violent.
Good
but
choice.
We wouldn't have Tarantino without Peckinpah and Scorsese.
Right.
So those masters of violence, came before and paved the way for him.
And picking up on that, and that was my thought exactly as I looked over the oeuvre of all three.
Wow. Have you been following the French elections? Now we're...
And I thought that
Macron, Le Pen.
Two early ones, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, were the essence of violence. Even though I think Reservoir Dogs doesn't have as much as you might have expected, but I think that brand of violence is...
and I think the 1-2 punch of those films... It's interesting. I actually remember going to the Drexel East to see Reservoir Dogs and buying my ticket, and at the concession stand there was a little sign that said, "Warning, this movie is extraordinarily violent and upsettingly violent." Something like that. There was a disclaimer. Can you imagine that today?
I know.
The portrayal of that kind of violence was very fresh and intense. So what that was in reference to was the scene where Michael Madsen tortures the cop and cuts his ear off. Played with a little, like a sort of delectably kind of masochistic or sadistic bent, you know?
But not pervasively violent.
No, the movie itself, there's a lot of blood.
Right. But there's a lot of talk.
But the next thing that happened was Pulp Fiction, and the moment when Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are in the car, they've taken the one kid, they've got him in the back seat, and they're kind of kidnapping or whatever, and they're having an argument about something in the front seat, and they hit a pothole, and Travolta's gun goes off, and the guy's brains go all over the thing. And it's such a surprise moment when you were watching that movie for the first time. It was an astonishing moment.
Yeah.
And I remember the feeling in the theater was like the wind got sucked out of everybody. So there was this silence, right? And then it was quickly followed by a burst of nervous laughter. I'm not kidding when I say that. I think that is one of the seminal moments in contemporary movie history. It changed movies.
It's a great image. I mean, all those brains splattered all over the windows, and then you'll go to when they take care of those college students
Mhm.
in the room so casually. It's a different kind. Then he has Kill Bill,
Yeah.
which is violent, but in a kind of, I don't know, a different way.
Right.
It's not blood.
It's over the top.
Yeah.
It's the context of it is so fantastical that it seems more comedic. But again, that couldn't have happened without that sense of humor about that black sense of humor about violence. I think that's rooted a lot in Hitchcock, don't you?
Oh, right, exactly. And I think you're right to caution us about thinking just visually on this. There's so much of this that's mental, as it was even in Reservoir Dogs. Talk to me a little bit about the daddy, Sam Peckinpah, of these two guys. Are we? We always talk about that. Is there that much violence in Peckinpah?
Well, think of the Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that slow-mo business
mm-hmm.
did more than anything to accentuate the artistic value of violence.
Sure. Yeah, like, blood slowly exploding out of bullet holes.
Yes.
Seeing flesh kind of go flying. Bodies in balletic.
Yes, exactly.
Convulsing. There's a Peckinpah movie. I'm not as well schooled on Peckinpah as I should be, but there's a Peckinpah movie. It is either The Wild Bunch or the one he did about Billy the Kid.
Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. There's one of those two movies opens up. In the foreground, there's a chicken. There's chickens buried up to their necks in dirt, and and they're using them for target practice. And the chickens' heads are just being exploded by gunfire. Now, I'm no expert, but that was before. That was at a time when animals' lives could have been sacrificed for the art of cinema. And I believe that what we're seeing are really chicken heads being shot. And that just paves the way for the violence that follows against people. But yeah, Peckinpah was he used violence in a very sort of powerful way.
Well, to show the other powerful way that he does, one of my favorites is Straw Dogs. Mm-hmm. Which brings that domestic violence, the intrusion motif.
Yeah, home invasion.
Yeah, home invasion.
Now a subgenre, all of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be bloody. The torture comes in your mind.
Yeah, it is a torturous movie. That also has that really awful rape scene where her ex-boyfriend and the thugs kind of break in and they rape Dustin Hoffman's wife, and because it's Peckinpah, there's some uneasiness there as to whether or not the character is being complicit in her rape or if she's enjoying it.
Oh, right. That
it was very controversial.
Yes.
At the time, Pauline Kael, no less a critic than Pauline Kael, defended the film.
Yeah.
And then she railed against Dirty Harry.
So we come to one of your favorite directors, Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
What's his kind of violence? I mean,
well, he's probably, in some ways, the least violent and uses violence the most meaningfully. I think. I don't know.
Well, the final scene
obviously,
in
Taxi Driver,
right?
My God, it just
yes,
the fingers blowing off and bullets piercing cheeks. Like it's extraordinary.
Yes.
The rendering of the violence in that final sequence is really amazing. And then at the end of it, it's just blood drenched. And this is where it's all been leading. So it's very powerful there. Obviously, sometimes he uses it to blackly comic effect, like Tarantino. I'm thinking in Casino. When they got the guy in they're squeezing his head in a vice and his eyeball pops out.
And he picks up on the old Cape Fear as a different kind of violence. Again, the mental.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's capable of dancing many ways.
Yeah, but he is ratchet. He's tightening those the vice on us psychologically that whole time, so that when violence does erupt,
yes,
it's cathartic in some way, and not in the vigilante sense of that's another thing. I've always been drawn to the cathartic release of violence and vigilante.
And you've loved Raging Bull, which is a realistic violence.
Well, yeah, it's a violence that we wreak upon those we love. Whether that's and that doesn't necessarily in Raging Bull it is physical abuse.
Yes.
But it's also an emotional abuse. And what makes Raging Bull ultimately a beautiful film for me is the violence, not just physical but psychological, that he inflicts upon himself because he hates himself.
Now, see, that's great. You went to the higher level. I'm thinking of the boxing scenes.
Well, yeah, the boxing scenes,
which
for
is,
sure.
however, really not half as important as what you're talking about, the domestic business.
Yeah, the domestic business, but also the torture. He tortures himself with thoughts of jealousy, of betrayal, self-loathing, that he'll never be like, it goes on and on. I mean, the guy is going down a rabbit hole of self-hatred, which I think explains why he erupts against the people he loves too.
Yeah.
Why? It's that the joke that Woody Allen opens Annie Hall up with. I wouldn't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member.
Yes,
right?
I love that.
So
I love
he
it.
can't understand. I don't think Jake LaMotta, De Niro's Jake LaMotta, Scorsese's LaMotta, can't understand why anybody would want to love him. He's to himself disgusting.
That's great. And later on in his career, less of that physical violence. Although I've forgotten Gangs of New York, how violent
Yeah.
that is. But I'm thinking of Shutter Island and Wolf of Wall Street, for instance, and these are not violent. I mean, if you wanted to
He's
talk
not
figuratively,
always a violent filmmaker.
Right.
He's capable of doing it right.
Well, it's interesting how we come to him, called one of the three masters, and you're so right. He's the least physically violent of all of them. So how has this evolved now? I mean, because I'm talking about Free Fire, and there's very little blood in that movie, and a whole lot of Tarantino kind of conversation being thrown all around as these two gangs oppose each other.
Right, and we always get into this this is the weird gray area, right, where we're talking about a certain kind of violence in a certain kind of genre,
Yes.
and not horror film.
Right, that's
we're talking
right,
about kind of gunplay or gangster violence, whatever. I was just talking to somebody the other day about a movie that came out recently, Bone Tomahawk. With
Gosh,
Kurt
Russell.
Which is a western. It's like a horror film western.
Isn't that
But
great?
there is a kill in that movie that is one of the most astonishing, hard to watch, repulsive acts of violence I have ever seen in any movie, in all the films I've seen.
Yes.
And man, I just I dare you to watch that one and not cringe at that scene. It's so, the sound effects. Sometimes the violence comes together in both visually and orally, and
Well,
that is a rough one.
I think that's an excellent film that few people have seen. And if you think about the transition, Kurt Russell is starring in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which we're doing on its movie time tomorrow.
Yeah, nice.
And he's playing the dad, and Chris Pratt plays his son. And there are all kinds of Oedipal problems going on, and very little of the peck and paw type of violence or the Tarantino.
Now here's one spoiler I want you to give to me. I want you to give me one spoiler. Does Baby Groot stay Baby Groot the whole time?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's okay.